Welcome to ChromeTalkies, Mr. Dwivedi. It's a pleasure to have you here and thank you for accepting this invite.
My pleasure. Thank you.
The last time I chatted from Prasar Bharati was with Mr. Vempati, a very dear friend, and we spoke on the subject of Ramayana. And Prasar Bharati had re-aired Ramayana to get some 77 million viewers, making it the biggest show for that 1 week. So lots of stuff you can do on Doordarshan, national channel, must carry. There are so many lovely shows that we've grown up with, Hum Log, Chitrahar. Why don't you get the same content and put it again and walk us back the memory lane? And that's something that only you can do.
Well, I agree with you, but there's a slight nuance to it. There's also an element of nostalgia. There's an element of a monopoly at that point of time, where much of the content could only be aired by Doordarshan, and now we have friends and colleagues across the industry, multiple channels coming up with some very interesting programming. But yes, for us as an organization, it definitely helps to be a part of almost every Indian's mental makeup. Everybody has grown up watching Doordarshan, and we do get several requests from people from time to time asking for many of the older shows to be brought back in. Some of them you mentioned.
No, Ramayana to itna badhiya.
So Ramayana itself, as a matter of fact, as we speak, Ramayana is being aired again from day before yesterday, and the 78 episodes would run 7 days a week over the next 11 weeks. So, as a matter of fact, in 20 minutes time from now, today's episode is going to be aired.
Oh, lovely.
And 6 p.m. and 12 in the afternoon. So, this is of course the older program. But we are also looking at some of the programs that really made Doordarshan. And we find that it's not just the mythological shows, but also pretty much every genre of what you see on TV today had its beginnings on Doordarshan.
TV Today is a competitor, by the way. So
TV,
carry on, just on the lighter note.
TV Today. So, whether it is mythologicals, whether it is family dramas, whether it is film-based programming, whether it is reality shows, all of them started here. And we've looked at some of our older programs, some of them that we are trying to bring back, some of them that we are even thinking in terms of creating a modern version, an updated version, which takes off from where the story left several years back. And we've also connected with some of the most reputed names in the industry to bring together a more updated version of programming for our audiences. We have Subhash Ghai already doing a series for us, Janaki. We've also tied up with Dr. Chandraprakash Dwivedi, who gave us Chanakya. He's doing a program called Jan Jan Mein Ram, which will be aired shortly. We've tied up with Seema Kapoor, who's bringing us a historical mythological show around the Ujjain kingdom called Avantika. In fact, that program is already on the air now. And so on and so forth. The Sagar family is also working on another program, and we should have it on air in a couple of months, which is again based on the Ramayana, the lesser known stories around the Ramayana. So therefore, we have all these programs already on the air, and we are also assessing the audience tastes in terms of what more they would want to have. Like one of the requests that we had was thrillers coming onto Doordarshan. And we've again started work on a cybercrime series, which I think in a month's time we should be able to air. So we are listening much more closely to the audience. We are trying to assess their preferences and choices. And Doordarshan, by its very nature, has never restricted itself to a single genre or subgenre. So we want to be a bouquet channel which gives everybody something to his or her taste. And I think you'll find the newer version of Doordarshan interesting and would like to tune in again.
I'd love to. So I'll tell you where I come from. I was brought up in Africa and left India at the age of 4, and we used to come every year for vacation to India. But that 1 month when we used to be in India, I have clear memories of my grandparents' house. Hum Log used to run. And getting to watch something like a Hum Log or alike at a fixed time on a fixed day by appointment actually would take me back decades. Right? What a lovely experience. So that's what I want. Why don't you get Hum Log? Will you get Hum Log? Can you get Hum Log? I'm asking you as a viewer. It was something that unites all of us.
हम लोग or something like it, yes, definitely.
हम लोग, सबने देखा हम लोग, कोई है नहीं जो, that was like the founding pillar of the soap opera, as you want to call it, right? When it started at that point in time.
So there are just some technical constraints to that, and not that we can't.
Do we have the rights of?
No, we some of those programs we do have the rights. Some of the programs we don't have the rights. But some of the programs that we remember from that time, unfortunately, those tapes are not available with anybody. So, say for instance, a few days back, Mr. Karan Razdan had come to meet.
Yeah.
And this iconic show called Rajni. Now, the tapes are not available.
Sampath,
Priya Tendulkar.
Yeah.
So, that was one of the programs that I grew up with and really loved that program. So, we've requested him to work it out in such a way that we can recreate that program. And I think, despite 30 plus years since the program was last aired, even today, the theme of an empowered woman, the theme of an intelligent,
still holds valid.
Taking up a cause and taking it to a logical conclusion still holds, possibly holds even more today than it used in the past. So therefore, we will have some of those older programs coming back, maybe in the same form, maybe in an updated form, but also new programming which appeals to what the audiences are watching.
Yeah, I can assure you as a data scientist, Rajni, I've watched that show many years back, but the format, as you rightly said, women empowerment, that content still resonates with today's audiences. And you know what stands out, Mr. Dwivedi, the way I see it, is standing out. So not doing the same thing. So if people are talking about today's content, which is completely different the way it is executed, Rajni or Hum Log or Chitrahar, they had a different format of execution, and that is something that will stand out. Which
so Chitrahar is still on, but then another version of a film music based program called Rangoli also runs, and Chitrahar used to be a kind of a semi-random collection of songs, whereas Rangoli is much more structured. So we have an anchor, she takes up a theme, it could be an event, it could be an actor or an actress, and then works on that theme and gives us multiple songs on that theme itself. So if you remember, there used to be this old program called Show Theme.
Yeah.
And Show Theme was possibly, I'm open to correction, but possibly to my recollection, the first song which actually presented movies not as entire movies or not only as songs, but maybe bits and pieces of movies which were strung together around a particular theme. So it was more of a discussion based program using films as the content source. And Rangoli takes off on that. So, we are also experimenting with multiple formats, and these programs do meet the audience expectations, and we'll try to make them better continuously.
So Gauravji, a lot of this has a huge potential on the digital front right now, right? So what are the initiatives? I remember I messaged you also a few weeks back when the Prime Minister was in Lakshadweep, I think. And there was a beautiful reel that I saw produced by Doordarshan. And I asked you why, I just saw one, I didn't see more of them. Like, why aren't you as active as the private sector with tons of reels and small data? You have access to some amazing content. Ram Mandir, for example, everyone was simulcasting your feed. And they had like millions and millions of views, right? So why not more on digital?
We are now much more active on digital than we used to be.
Do you have a dedicated team for that?
We have a dedicated team in place now, and we are also now exploring the media where we were possibly not so strongly present earlier. So the Facebook or the YouTube or the Twitter, but in addition to that, we are now working very well on Instagram as well.
Okay.
So we are making reels, and that's the one that you saw.
Oh, I love that one. It was very well created.
That was the beaches of Lakshadweep, if I recall correctly.
Okay.
And we are now presenting our content in bite-sized pieces as well for the social media audiences. But then, of course, we would want people to come on to our streaming channels, that want to come on our linear channels and watch the entire programs as well. So this is maybe just an appetizer. There's much more that lies with Doordarshan.
Going back to the conversation that you and I had a few months back, DD most weeks falls in the top 10 news channels in India, right? That's heartening to know, despite the fact that you operate with a lot of constraints. As a public broadcaster, there is so much, only so much that you can say, and there is so much that you cannot say.
Well, I would not really say that.
So when I'm saying not say, I'm not saying in terms of being pro or anti-establishment. I'm talking more in terms of frivolous content.
Well, I won't say that it's a constraint really.
Okay.
I mean, it's actually a responsibility that we can. And that's a responsibility that is given to us by law. I mean, Prasar Bharati has been created under an act of the Parliament, and with a very, very specific mandate in terms of informing, educating and entertainment of the audiences. Now, the same thing can be presented in multiple ways, but then as the public service broadcaster of India, we carry this responsibility that every word that we utter is going to be listened to very, very carefully.
Yeah.
And therefore, whatever we speak, whatever we air, has to be absolutely sourced correctly. So we can't, on every 30 seconds, we can't go with a new breaking news. While a news may be breaking, yes, but unless we have completely ascertained the provenance of that news, we will not air it. So for a non-Doordarshan channel, non-Doordarshan news channel, for them, maybe issuing a corrigendum or an apology sometime later may be possible. For us, it is not. So, which is why, you may sometimes find that, we take a bit of a time, or we are a little more sedate in terms of presenting what we are presenting, but then we are presenting facts and verified facts. And as regards the formats itself of the news are concerned, so there I would think that, the audience possibly has a choice in terms of watching something maybe which is a little more bubbly, or watching something which is a little more carefully considered analysis of issues. And given a choice, I would continue to remain with the latter rather than go towards the former.
That reminds me of a very recent episode, personally not in favor, the Poonam Pandey controversy. So a lot of news channels ended up carrying the news, and there was a huge amount of criticism why there was no verification. And in all fairness, it was an official announcement. So you really can't blame a news channel, because they actually went through the official page of a known personality. So news can validate only till a certain point, but once there is an official source, you really can't hold a news channel responsible for that. But Doordarshan would not get into, you wouldn't get into this, right? Because you would get into things that really matter to the public.
As far as we are concerned, it's always about providing the most authoritative and most relevant news, and something which really affects the day-to-day lives of the people. So, the developments, whether it is in business, whether it is in the economy, whether it is in the political sphere or entertainment sphere, we would bring the widest possible variety of news to the audience, but then only after checking it absolutely down to the last T. So, I would think that for the audience, it's again a choice. You can come to Doordarshan and you can watch maybe 30, 40, 50 different news stories being covered through the day. Whereas, for a non-Doordarshan channel, the option could very well be that you pick up just 5 stories and then hammer them through the day.
Yeah.
So, while this also has its own audience, this also has its own market, but then it does not provide a complete, well-rounded perspective of the world to the audience, and we would stick to this.
Yeah. So I will chat with you offline on news. Doordarshan, for a fact, airs hard news to a great extent, but when it comes to monetization, is it fair for me to comment that Doordarshan is not as aggressively monetizing advertising sales with feet on street as the private sector is?
We weren't, but we've started now. Yeah. There is a certain kind of content.
मैं बताता हूँ मैं कहाँ से आ रहा हूँ, क्योंकि we interact with pretty much everyone in the television industry, लेकिन DD के sales वाले नहीं दिखते. If I go to a big buying office and all, you will find all the news channels queued up at the reception.
अब दिखेंगे. See, there is, again, if you look at our content and specifically the news content, there are certain kinds of news content that possibly we would never monetize while others would.
For example?
for example, say the Republic Day parade, just don't go too far back, just last 15-20 days.
Every channel had L bands and God knows what all. Yeah,
Absolutely.
I was telling some another competitor brand of yours. In fact, I had a chat with the BBC heads today, and we had the same discussion. It was the Ram Mandir inauguration. The choice of L bands was hugely in contrast to the content.
It's not just the Ram Mandir. I mean, the Ram Mandir, the beating of the retreat.
You don't monetize it. You don't place ads, so it's an ad-free content.
Absolutely ad-free. I mean, take a look at it's the same feed. I mean, we are covering it. We are providing the feed to all the broadcasters. They would monetize it, but we wouldn't.
No, I think it's a fantastic example to all of you behind the camera. You want to watch national events without a break. The channel to watch is Doordarshan, because I think he's made a fantastic point. When you have national events, DD is the only place where you can watch the entire thing without a break. Come to think of it, right?
So, for the other kind of content, for the other news, yes, definitely we advertise, and it's not like we are averse to advertising. Definitely, the effort needed to be stepped up. We've now increased our manpower. We've engaged with agencies. We are talking directly to large advertisers.
Your advertising sales in-house, or you've got a third-party agency?
Both.
On tender. Okay, you got both. Okay.
So, our people are now more aggressively talking to the larger advertisers, and we're also looking at creating a mechanism by which maybe some of the smaller advertisers who did not have the resources to look at national channels could come to even our regional channels and get some airtime over there.
Yeah.
So it's something that benefits everybody. We have the slots, we have the mechanisms to now procure the advertisements and then run those advertisements. Again, as far as the ads are concerned, there are certain kinds of advertising that we would not run.
You're not carrying the first.
We will not
surrogates, for example.
Certain kind of advertising we will not carry. Because we have a self-imposed broadcasting code. We have a self-imposed advertising code that we have in Prasar Bharati. And I think despite that, in the initial years when the private channels did start coming in, there was no dearth of advertising that Doordarshan used to get. So it's not as if the kind of content that we air, completely excludes or precludes advertisers from coming in. I think it's a matter of just being a little more, feet on the ground, boots on the ground.
Feet on the ground, and I remember recently I was watching Doordarshan. It looks much smarter than you used to. You've done some change in the packaging, look and feel.
Yeah. This is again
pretty sleek looking.
If you want to see our best foot forward, then I would suggest take a look at DD India.
DD India.
Because DD India is a channel that is largely oriented at audiences outside of India. So we made a good deal of effort as far as DD India is concerned when the G20 summit was to be held. Because again, as the public broadcaster, we were supposed to provide the feed to broadcasters around the world, and globally, all the major countries took their feeds from us and ran those programs. And I think the largest broadcasters came back to us and said that this was a phenomenal coverage that we did. This was the first time that Doordarshan did a 4K coverage of an event. And we provided feeds, in whichever format they wanted. They wanted 4K, we gave them 4K. They wanted high definition, ultra high definition, standard definition. Whatever you wanted, we would give it to you in that format. Then again, for the Ram Mandir, we did the same. It was covered in 4K. And then, of course, the high definition feeds were provided to whoever asked for it. And freely, we shared them across linear channels as well as online. So, as far as the coverage itself is concerned, yes, we will provide you the best coverage. And wherever the potential for monetization exists, we will be much more, batting on the front foot to try to get as much of ad sales also.
I have to interrupt and say something. How long have you been in the media sector? The terms and terminologies you come across as you've been here for the last 2 decades. High definition, ultra high definition, packaging, look, feel, L bands. You're on top of everything.
I'm a dyed in the wool bureaucrat. And we learn to take things in their stride. We learn very, very quickly on the job. And of course, we have people and friends like you to teach us.
No, nothing like that. It was a pleasure always chatting up with you. Tell me about D2M, Gauravji. We met on D2M. So, direct to mobile. What's the role of Prasar Bharati in launching? But just let me give you a recap of D2M in terms of getting video without data, which basically means no internet, and you can watch content on your phone using the terrestrial infrastructure of DD. Am I right? So, you want to elaborate a little bit on DD?
I think just a little bit of context setting is in place here. So, if you recall, from your Africa days, whenever you would come back to Delhi, so you would have essentially a terrestrial transmission, and which essentially meant that there was no cable, there was no dish, and there used to be this tower in your town which broadcast the signal in a radius of few or several kilometers, and then you had an antenna, and then you connected that to your TV and watched it there. Now, sometime around 20 to 25 years back, the satellite coverage started, and people got used to either cable connections or set-top boxes, and gradually the entire industry moved there. And as a matter of fact, Doordarshan was the only broadcaster across India which had a terrestrial network. All the other channels, when they came up essentially as satellite channels and distributed through either set-top boxes or the cable networks. Now, DD had set up close to, I think, about 700 or so towers across the country where the terrestrial transmission used to take place. And even today, in some of our remoter areas, we still maintain terrestrial transmission, but largely along with the rest of the industry, we moved back again to the set-top boxes. The technology of D2M has been around for a few years now, and what it basically does is that the broadcast feed is transmitted in a local area, as like was done in the old terrestrial transmission system, and it is done over a broadcast frequency, not over a data frequency. So what it means is that you are not incurring any data charges for watching that content, as long as absolutely free. So as long as you have a device
which could be a mobile or a TV, it could be a connected TV,
which could be any device which is capable of catching and rendering that signal. You can watch that content.
Sorry, why a smart TV? Anything which could be connected
exactly with any TV. I mean, it doesn't need a smart TV. So what this would mean for the audience is that the content would be available to you free of charge. So if it's almost like listening to your car radio. You're driving around, you have the radio and the FM channel is going on, and you're listening FM, AM, whatever channel is there. You can listen to whatever channel that you like. Now, as far as D2M is concerned, it is exactly the same thing, except that it's not just an audio signal; it's a video signal.
Yeah.
It is appointment viewing because it's a broadcast channel. Yes. So the audience is now currently straddling two worlds. There is one which is appointment viewing, and the other is on demand, VOD. And what D2M does is that it can take the appointment viewing away from the set-top boxes. So it is available to you on the go. So if you have a mobile, and as long as your mobile is capable of catching that signal, so you can just tune in right now and watch any channel of your choice. But it's going to be a broadcast channel. So if it is on demand you want, you go to data. If you are happy with the broadcast, linear, then you go with that. Now we've already concluded the proof of concept.
I've seen that. So
we've been working very closely with the IIT Kanpur, and the proof of concept has already been done. The testing is concluded, and now we've just received the final report. In fact, last week of the proof of concept, and another proposal for conducting large-scale field trials across 19 cities. So we are now going through that, since it came to us just last week. We're going through it, and over the next few months, we are hopeful that if the things go as per plan, then we should have large-scale trials in these 19 cities using about 23 transmitters that we have in these cities. And the audiences at large would be able to then start making use of the broadcast signal. So it works out cheaper for the audience, in the sense that for any content that they want to have, they have still a wide bouquet of channels that we will provide to them, and whichever of those channels they want to watch. For us it is good because it is much more measurable. We know exactly which channel is getting consumed, which channels are not getting consumed. It's an opportunity for monetization, as you were mentioning some time back. But more importantly, for the audiences, it works out completely free. So
India is a free market.
India is, what the telecom sector calls ARPU, average revenue per user. So we are still one of those countries where we have huge data consumption, but the average revenues per users were very low till recently.
Yeah.
In the last few years, they've started picking up, started moving closer to the global averages. But the audiences here still would prefer not to pay.
They would not to pay.
So that be the situation. I mean, if we are able to successfully do these field trials, then we should have the audiences, we should present the audiences this option as well.
Yeah.
And finally, it's a matter of the ecosystem itself. So some of the people have been, some of the caveats that we've heard on that is that this requires some kind of additional chip or additional dongle or additional device to be hooked
So I've
on.
seen that some kind of thing that you attach the device, which might be a deterrent for growth in the beginning.
Yeah, so that's one of the caveats that we've heard. But I think to that my response would be that the hardware market also develops in response to the consumption stimulus.
Yeah.
So what is it exactly that the users want? So again, when we were transitioning from say feature phones onto smartphones,
Yeah.
many people believed that smartphones would have only a very, very limited use.
Yes.
But then once apps started coming in,
Life revolves around the smartphone.
your entire life, I mean, your television, your telephone, your
Life, the
contact
family,
book,
the
your-
kids revolve around the phone. Everything is on the phone.
Everything is around your phone.
Yeah.
So many of the features that were not there in the phones to begin with, then started getting introduced within the phones itself. Your contact book, for instance, or maybe your calendar,
Calculator, everything.
calculator, to-do list. Your compass, your TV, your streaming, everything.
Now even heartbeats, everything on there, everything on the phone. Yeah.
So therefore, if there is a strong enough consumer stimulus, if there is large enough number of people who find this to be something which is
Scale up
useful,
happens on its own.
then the industry is going to respond.
And the
to
moment the scale up happens, the costs crash.
So the technology exists already. I mean, as far as the proof of concept is concerned, technology is already established.
I agree with
Now
you.
it's only a matter of doing these trials and establishing the proper use cases for that, the business case actually, if you want to put it that way.
D2M is an additional responsibility along with the 36 channels, unique channels that you run, and 259 radio stations and the digital plethora of services. That's a huge team, right? You want to say something on, I run a very small company. Prasar Bharati is huge. Leadership must be a big challenge.
Well, two things I think you need to keep in mind. As far as the challenge part is concerned, it's definitely very, very interesting.
It's a different ball game altogether.
It's
right?
a very, very interesting proposition, and it's running these channels or running these stations or running this large organization. I think Prasar Bharati, by the virtue of being the public service broadcaster, has always also played this responsibility of helping the industry to grow.
Yes.
So if you look at set-top boxes, for instance, we were just talking about it a few minutes back. So when the industry started moving from terrestrial to cable and to set-top boxes, Prasar Bharati was among the first to start introducing these set-top boxes, and in fact we run the only free-to-air, completely free-to-air set-top box system called Free Dish.
Free Dish, yeah.
We are the largest.
We are tracking those numbers, so absolutely. I'm fully aware of if Free Dish is now, it's a currency on its own. You've got 160 million homes, so much pay and so much Free Dish.
So it's I mean, a quarter of the Indian market is Free Dish.
It is.
And I would say that in terms of everything else aside, I think Free Dish itself made satellite or delivered or linear content available to 45 million households.
Yes.
So it's a huge number. It is
And
not
it's
something.
growing.
It is not something which only worked for Prasar Bharati, but it helped the industry to grow as well.
Yeah.
People
And,
wanted
and tons of money you print on the auctions.
whatever it is.
With Prasar Bharati.
And it's not just the money that we print. It's providing options to the audiences. And there are, of course, since we are completely free to air, so there are channels which are completely pay channels as well. So people who want to graduate on from free to air channels to pay channels, graduate there, which means that they buy another set-top box. So it's not just that we've grown; the industry has grown along with us. Now, as far as running this organization is concerned, I think it's a matter of having a clear idea, a vision, or a perspective of where you want the organization to go. And in those terms, our life is actually made simpler by the fact that our mandate is defined by an act of the parliament. There's nothing bigger than that.
Yeah.
So what I might have mentioned some time back, inform, educate, and entertain. and to be done in a manner which provides the most well-rounded global perspective with its local flavor to the audiences across the country. So, as far as the vision is concerned, that is clearly established by the Parliament. There is nobody bigger than it. Now, within the organization itself, since we are spread all over the country, these channels, TV channels running from almost all state headquarters, and 259 radio stations across the country, even the smallest towns you will find us. So which means that it's not a very straitjacketed approach that can work there. So the vision is established, the mission is established, and down the line I think there's also a matter of providing freedom to our people, that whatever local tweaks that they need to make, they have to work with the confidence that we are standing with them. And whatever is the best mix of content that can be presented or should be presented to the audiences, they are free to do that. So while we do monitor that, but then at the same time we also provide them adequate flexibility. We have a good mix of people. We have people who started their careers with Akashvani and Doordarshan and who were government employees who are still working with us. And we've also taken people from the market. We have people on contract. We have specialists hired from the market. So all taken together, it's a good mix of people. People learn from each other. And so far, I would say that they have consistently delivered, and we'll aim to do better in the future.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure talking to you. I'll wrap up with a question, but allow me to say this. It was a genuine pleasure chatting up with you, Gauravji. As I said, you really seem to come from the industry like for the last many decades. Your knowledge is amazing, and it's great to see people like you in charge of our public broadcaster. It's a pleasure chatting up with you. So I'll wrap up with my question. हम लोग कब लाओगे?
हम लोग अभी भी हैं यहाँ.
Lovely chatting up with you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Nice.